Not surprised to see another shooting in this part of town. Dude's got a roll of cash in his pocket. Probably caught up in some bad stuff.
This guy's been shot 3 times. And he had a stolen bottle of pills in his pocket. Who knows what's in his system?
All nurses to the nurses station.
I get so tired of seeing this. I wish these guys cared more about themselves. If he makes it, he'll be back on the streets and probably back here in 6 months.
Wonder what his story is. I was packing up, getting ready to leave for my spring semester of college. My mom gave me some cash to take back to school. I took it and went to hang out with my homies for the night. My grandma asked me to stop at the pharmacy and pick up her prescription since it was on the way. I was walking to my homie's house when I heard gunshots. I felt a sting, but it took me a second to realize that I was shot. I'd been shot 3 times. Next thing I know, I'm waking up handcuffed to a hospital bed. I was unconscious for 2 weeks. I lost one of my kidneys, my lower intestine, and my spleen. The doctors didn't know if I was going to walk again. And on top of that, I was under arrest and I wasn't allowed to see my family.
What happened to Ron happens all too often to boys and men of color. Research indicates that racial and ethnic minorities are overestimated to be responsible for crime and to be more prone to violence. This is a result of several factors, including our country's history of racist policies, individual unconscious biases, racial bias in media portrayal of crime, and racial disparities in the legal system. Because of the ways in which boys and young men of color have been dehumanized by society at large, effective service provisions requires a culturally responsive and trauma-informed approach. As a service provider, you can support the healing of boys and men who are survivors of violence. You can see them through a different lens, one that accurately reflects their lives and histories. The Supporting Male Survivors of Violence Demonstration Initiative was a 5-year effort to help service provider organizations educate and expand the provision of effective, culturally appropriate, trauma-informed services to boys and men harmed by violence. RTI served as the national evaluator of these programs. This video highlights some of the results of the evaluation and is meant to be a resource for service providers to effectively support male survivors of violence and trauma. In interviews conducted with program staff, RTI learned that one important cultural change that needs to happen in order to effectively provide support is to shift from the idea of men causing violence to seeing men as survivors of violence who need resources and assistance. One staff member discussed how some people have trouble making this shift.
Some people just don't get it. One woman said, "Why are we investing in kids who are committing crimes?" The whole idea of their trauma went right past her and straight to they're criminals. Anyone can be a victim of crime. When someone causes harm, that harm is associated with harm that was done to them.
The reality is, boys and men of color can be victims of violence even if they have caused harm to others. They can also be victims without a history of causing any harm to others. When individuals and agencies adopt this point of view, the door to positive change opens. The Supporting Male Survivors of Violence sites also noted that trauma is often a common shared experience.
What we know is, in the communities where we work, everybody is impacted by trauma just by their environmental factors.
When service providers began to reframe the way they saw the individual, they found they also needed to redefine what was meant by violence and trauma.
Violence is not just what you think about in movies. Food insecurity is violence. When you're homeless, When you don't have a steady place to stay, that's an act of violence.
Trauma is not necessarily associated with one large event. It could be the trauma of your childhood. It could be the years of instability and violence surrounding you.
A lot of these men don't even know they've experienced trauma because it has been so normal for them. Seeing somebody shot is traumatic, but what if you've seen several people shot?
And if they don't even realize they've experienced trauma, how do they know to ask for help? This is where service providers have an opportunity to step in and make a difference.
You can step back for a moment and recognize that the work doesn't have to be within our walls. There are people out there who need the service, and if it means us going to where they are to provide the service, then the job's done.
When you redefine violence and trauma and truly understand how it exists in the communities you serve, the real change can begin. It's important to remember that male survivors of violence may have been let down by public servants in the past. Earning trust is crucial, and many sites hire staff with shared experience to help facilitate a foundation of trust.
If someone who is actively or formerly gang involved gets shot, realistically, your messenger needs to be someone they can connect with, someone they understand, who's saying, "This has made a difference in my life, and I think it could make a difference in yours."
And once that trust has been established, it's important to stay completely engaged so you don't lose it. To be an effective service provider means being consistent and available.
It's not a big or glamorous ask. Just do what you say you're going to do. That's the most important piece. If you say you're going to call tomorrow night at 9, make sure you call that person tomorrow night, because you only have one opportunity with this group of folks.
Changing perspectives and reframing the story allows people to see survivors and the worlds they come from with more empathy and compassion. By applying a racial equity lens to your work, you will be able to see the truth of a person's experience, take action, offer support, and create positive change in our communities.
While I was still in the hospital, I met Kevin. Kevin had also been shot about 2 years before. While we were talking, he told me about how getting shot caused him to have nightmares. I told him I was feeling really anxious. My chest hurt all the time, and I felt like I couldn't breathe. He told me there were services available to help guys like us, like a support group. After I got out of the hospital, I joined the group and was able to talk with other guys who had similar experiences. It let me know I wasn't alone. After a lot of therapy and determination, I was able to walk again, and I went back to college to finish my degree. I don't think I would have been able to do it if it wasn't for the support of my mom and the guys in that group.